Hello, I'm Dave Apsley. I'm a forester and a natural resources specialist with Ohio State University Extension. Today is April 12th, and I'm joining you from our woodland property here in Jackson County, Ohio. And I'd like to introduce you to a tree that's starting to put on quite a show right now. It's eastern redbud. Eastern redbud is a small tree that may get 20 to 30 feet in height, and it has more of a rounded crown. You'll typically find it in nature along woodland edges. You might find it in old reverting fields scattered throughout there, but rarely in the deep woods unless it happens to be in a canopy gap. It's also been planted historically in the landscape, although we don't see it planted quite as frequently as it used to once be. This plant is native to all of Ohio, but it's much less frequent up in the northeastern part of the state. And as you come south and west, you're going to find quite a bit more of this, especially again along those woodland edges. So again, it's a small tree, only gets about 20 to 30 feet in height, has more of a spreading crown. It won't have a nice central leader. Usually it's single stemmed, but occasionally you might find multiple stemmed eastern redbuds. And the reason most people can identify this tree is because of the flowers. Again, I mentioned it's April 12th, and this thing's putting on quite a show. The flowers are anywhere from a pink to a purplish in color. They look a lot like the flowers of a pea or a bean, and that's because they are a relative of the pea. They're actually in that same family, the bean family. And their flowers can be up to about a ½ inch in length. There can be bunches of them from the very newest growth from last year all the way back to on the main trunk. And this is one of the things that makes it unique. I'm seeing flower buds way back here on the main trunk of the tree, and that's very unusual. Most trees and shrubs are going to produce flowers and fruit in one of two places. They're either going to produce flowers and fruit later in the year after the new growth, the buds have broken, you get new growth on the end of the twig, and the flowers are produced there. Or like many trees and shrubs, including our fruit trees, they're going to be produced on last year's new wood. So this very tip here is what was produced last year, and we do have flowers produced out here, and eventually we'll probably get some fruit out here. But you'll see it all along the twig and the branches, and again all the way back on the main bole. So that makes it very unique for a tree and shrub to do that. Again, I mentioned it's in the pea family. It produces a pod that looks very much like a pea pod, almost like a snow pea. They're very flattened. They'll turn a dark colored brown. They can be a couple to 3 inches in length. And then they'll have these little hardened seeds inside, which would be very difficult to germinate unless you did something to break that seed coat down. So what else do we use to identify this tree other than with these beautiful pinkish or purplish flowers? Well, obviously we want to look for leaves. It's a little bit early for that right now. I'm seeing buds breaking, the vegetative buds breaking, and I can see just a start on the new leaves. But these leaves are heart-shaped. They'll eventually get 3 to 5 inches in length, the leaf blade, and they've got a beautiful heart shape to them. They don't have any teeth, so they have a smooth or entire margin or edge. They've got a little stalk or petiole that might be a couple inches in length, and that stalk or petiole is swollen on both ends. So not only where it attaches to the twig is it swollen, but you'll also find it swollen right at the base of that leaf blade. The leaves are alternate, so they're going to alternate sides of this zigzag twig, and this twig is very dark in color and it has a nice zigzag appearance. No true terminal bud. The bud at the very tip looks the same as the buds on the side. These little vegetative buds aren't much to look at. They're kind of triangular. They kind of lay down on the twig. But it's the flower buds that have a stalk that are going to be evident later in the growing season. They'll kind of have a purplish or reddish color, and they'll be on this twig throughout the winter months. And then we get into the month of April, you're going to see them break bud and start to flower. So again, twigs are dark in color. They might have some little white lenticels or dots on them. And then finally, we can look at the bark. The bark is tough to describe. The keys say it has a maroon color kind of, or maroon patches, and it might have a little bit of an orange tint to it, especially on a more mature tree. But we'll give you a good shot of that bark to look at as well. So again, this is eastern redbud. It's a small tree. It's native. You're going to find it on these woodland edges. You might even find that in an old pasture that's reverting and scattered throughout there. They have been planted historically in the landscape. I think they're underutilized, and I think it would be nice to see more of them planted in the landscape. But again, eastern redbud, Cirsus canadensis. Thank you for your time, and please be sure to take part of your day to enjoy it in the woods.